Alright, here we go. The Bosch ZR4 magneto I took apart 7 months ago. I looked it up a little while ago just to see how long ago it was. And 7 months ago, we tore this down, did a few tests. Since then, I have cleaned it up quite a bit. A lot of places I couldn't get the aluminum very clean, so I painted it with some Alumicast paint after sandblasting. The bronze cleaned up real well. Kind of wanted it to stay that way, so I clear coated it. And the rotor, we'll actually talk about that and assemble that first. I did a little work on this. So let me get rid of my parts here and make some room, and we will get rolling. Alright, here's the rotor. Let's talk about this part first. In the teardown video, I had issues with continuity to this slip ring on the secondary side. I did not have continuity to the slip ring, and turned out once I took this apart and cleaned it out, the wire was just loose fitting in there. So I made some slack and shoved it in tighter, and it makes connection now, and I also glued it in place and sealed it, and should be good to go. But we're going to run a couple tests on this real quick just to make sure. Okay, so our secondary winding, which is this ring, which is where a spark comes from, to either one of my leads on the primary should be about 5,000 ohms or so. So if we check this, we're at 4.8K. So right there. And that's most magnetos, that's pretty close to the secondary, should be a few thousand ohms. And just check the other one to make sure, but it's going to be the same. Yep, so we're the same there. The other thing we want to make sure is that we do not have a short to ground. So we touch the slip ring and touch ground, and make sure we have nothing. And we do not. Next, I want to go across the primary, and the primary is usually really low, usually a couple ohms or less. Let's zero out my leads, and I'm at 0.1, 0.2. We go across this one. I get a good connection eventually. 1 ohm, so 0.8 of an ohm or so. That should be fairly normal for this. One other thing I want to show you, the capacitor that was in here. Alright, original capacitor. It actually tests good. If I test it, I'm at almost 200 nanofarads, 187. So it really does not test bad, but this doesn't test for leakage or anything. So, but it would probably work. Now I sort of built a replacement here. A lot of times people will take just any cap, 0.22 here, but any cap that they're going to use for this and glue it in place or mount it down there. I wanted to make it a little more stable, so I 3D printed this holder, and I'm not going to take it apart to show you, but I desolder this pad here. It's a brass chunk, and I slide it down in here, and that's it sticking through the bottom. And then put my capacitor in here, and of course solder all the leads where it needs to go. There are a couple articles online showing where to connect these, but I have a ground. This one goes to the points, and the points holder actually makes contact with that through this bolt. But if we tested this capacitor, I go from here to my mounting stud on the back, 217. Or you go across these, it's the same thing, 217. So let me show you how we Install this the rest of the way here and get it where it needs to be. Realize I got one issue with my camera mount here. I shake it when I'm shaking the table. My other camera mount didn't mount to the table, so this is new for me. Oh well, we'll deal with it this time. I'll try to fix it next time. Alright, this will mount in place here. Actually gets held in by the screw that holds the points on. And I got a ground screw. Okay. Now, this is actually going to mount on the back here. I'm not going to tighten them with this screwdriver. I'm just getting them down there. I got one that fits better for that. Yeah, this shaking camera is driving me crazy. It's probably going to drive y'all crazy too. I definitely got to fix that. Okay, next step I'm going to do off camera is to actually solder these wires. Wire coming from the primary on this side to that lead. And this one over here is going to get soldered to that side. So that is the next step. So I'm going to do it off camera real quick. Okay, got it soldered up and fixed my shaking camera problem. It's actually mounted to the table hook. It's next to this one now. Do a couple tests, make sure we did it right. So I'm using this screw to make connection. And if we check resistance, it's actually going to be, let's see, almost a short, right? 1 ohm, which is good. We check from our primary to anywhere, it should be 5K. Yeah, 4.9, because one of our secondaries is grounded. Okay, so that's about all the tests we could do with the rotor. But we tested everything individually, so we're good here. Alright, we will come back and do a few more tests on this once we put the points on it. Let's go ahead and do that. Actually, let's go ahead and build the points. Here's our points assembly. All I did with this was clean it up, bead blast it, bead blast the points themselves a little bit, clean them up, polish them up some. I did have to make new plastic bushings to go here, so we're going to hope that works. First thing to install is this little bracket that holds the stationary contact. There's an insulator that goes down first. This goes down over that. And we have a screw here. I'll make sure I seat it all the way before I tighten it down so I don't crack anything. Okay. Next we're going to install this piece. I do want to put a little bit of grease on that. Normally it has a little piece of felt inside of here that holds oil. I don't have that, but this grease is pretty thin, so maybe it'll distribute itself. Okay, seems to move pretty good. This little spring-loaded catch slides over. The reason I have it like that is so you can flip it to the side and put a couple drops of oil in there on the wick that should be in there, but we're going to go with this for now. Now we have the spring wraps around to there, and it also has this piece that goes over it. It's hard staying in the camera view when I'm zoomed in this close, but there we go. Okay. Now we'll just adjust this to adjust the points gap, and that's the spec in the little manual for this says 0.4 millimeters, so I'll have to figure that out when I get there. But that's the point assembly. It's completely together. Normally has a little tab there, and there's a notch inside of this part, and it mounts like that. And you have this screw that goes down. Let's try something here. Okay, so if we're mounted and we're closed, if I can get on these right, I'm expecting about 0 ohms, 0.2 ohms, whatever lead resistance is. Yeah, close to it. Okay, so if I open the points, that should go up to whatever the primary coil resistance was, which was about 1 ohm. Yep. Points open goes to 1 ohm. Points closed goes to 0.2. Open 1. Oop, I have a bad connection here. Open 1. Close to 1. Close 0.2. Yep. Okay, that shows us a couple things. Points are making contact when they should, and they're not making contact when they're not supposed to. So, good test. Means we don't have to take it back apart later and try to figure out what's going on. Hopefully. Yeah, we always plan that, but still end up having to do it. Just another test with it off here, just to show you how to test it without it mounted. I'm going to go to continuity so we hear the buzzer. And we go from this to this, right? See, beep's probably barely showing up in this headphones, but you could see the measurement. OL out of limits with open circuit, points closed, goes to 0, and we beep. So armature's built, point assembly's built. This is one of the last things to go on. Alright, now I'm trying to remember the order I took this apart at. Maybe I should have watched my video beforehand. Well, no, we need our plates. Okay, these are the 2 side plates. The magnets actually touch here on each side, and they mount to our bottom plate here. And just so you can see this. Yeah, you can barely see that, but anyway. ZR4 ED34. Serial number for those that care, 394258. Maybe that's a 3. I think that's going to be a 3 at the end. Alright. So these plates of dowel pins, they bolt down on each side of this assembly. And the screws go on the bottom. It's good to go. By the way, when I cleaned up this assembly, I just bead blasted it and then wire wheeled it to get it nice and shiny again. Also, this is laminated. I didn't want it to rust again, so I soaked it in oil for a few weeks, then took it out and cleaned it off, wiped it off really good. So it should not corrode up too bad. Okay, what is next? Next up, I think we'll go with the rear assembly here. And which side is the rear? There's one way to tell. We look at our rotor. The spark pickup is on the rear, and the ground is on the front. The tower for the spark goes here. So this is the rear. And the way we identify this is we have a little brush assembly that screws into this hole in the front, makes contact here for good ground. So this will technically fit on either side, but this is the side it's supposed to go on, and you won't get very far if you put it on the other side. And I just put it upside down. Alright. You know, one thing I should have done there before I put this cover on is press on this bearing race. I didn't. Let's see how easy it goes in. I might luck out. Oh yeah, slides right in. We're good there. I'm going to go ahead and grease that race now. Go. Guess next step is get the rotor in there. So we'll grease the inner race. That piece of metal, I don't think that is this, or it would arc to it. Just get the bearings good. We can install this front housing first, because that hole is large enough for the rotor to fit through. Yeah, okay, good. That makes this part a little easier. I'm just starting this screw to keep it centered. It doesn't need to be there yet. Get rid of this other one. Really hope this works after all this. I don't even have a use for it yet. I'm just thought it was kind of a cool style magneto to see how it works, and found two of them on eBay cheap and wanted to go for it. Speaking of which, if you made it this far and you didn't see the teardown video, there is a teardown video. of taking the two magnetos apart and seeing what I had. Okay. Take that one out now. There's actually something else I want to put on this first. I want to put on this gear. So this gear will line up in these two holes. There are these, I'm sorry, these two pins line up in these two holes. And it can go on either way. And it doesn't matter which way it goes, because either way this timing mark is going to line up with the same area on either side opposite. So it does not matter as long as it fits in one of those two orientations. Now, the first one I took apart had a phenolic gear on here, but the second one had steel, so I'm going with the steel. Alright, this is not the right tool. We're going to make it work. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, the way I broke it loose last time, is tap it with a little punch. And I'm going to tap it just to make sure it's good and tight. But I'll do that off camera. So, here's our bearing that goes on this side. And the race is actually supposed to have some shims behind it. Supposed to be not really preload. You're just supposed to add enough to take up the slack. And I don't know how many to add. So I'm going to go with 3, 2 thicker ones and a thin one, and we'll see what happens. And there is one thing I forgot to do. I just realized there's 2 more screws I need to put in here on the back side. Okay, so anyway, got these tight. And I think we're almost ready for that. Want to make sure this race is all the way down. All right, it is. Now I still need to put this gear in there. First, I have to put this bushing in. Guess I'll move this out of the way. Man, that thing keeps coming in and out. All right. See, maybe this will work out. So there is a groove on the bottom. This will lay him down because there is an oiler there that I forgot to put in. Story of my life here. Alright, I might be able to reach it through that hole, but show you what it looks like anyway. It's a piece of wick and this screw, and it goes up through this hole, and the wick rubs the shaft. And I should be able to get that in. So that little dot basically needs to aim up. Remove these screws, get them out of the way. All right. There's our bushing. To lock the bushing in, we install this piece. Okay, and then there is a small flathead lock screw. And that's a Phillips head, so that's not going to work. But need my reading glasses, I guess. Alright. Locked in place. Let's see if I can get this where it's supposed to be. Okay, so it sticks through pretty deep. Even, well, 6 feet pretty deep before the gear's in, so looks like I need to put the gear in before I slide that in place. Yeah. Okay, so I go ahead and put some grease in here. Get that ready. I will need to put the armature in before I go that far, though. So there's a couple timing marks to worry about here. One right here. And then you got clockwise and anti-clockwise. So depending on which way this magneto is going to run. I'll just set it up for anti-clockwise because that's generally what a lot of them seem to run at, and we'll go with that. Alright, timing marks are lined up. Okay, put a little grease on that bearing. Cleaned this off with compressed air, so see how it goes. Now this bronze piece has the race in it. It did not come out very easy, so I just left it there. Some I notice here we have play without it tightened down, but even with it flush. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put those other shims in it. Alright, put these other two shims in there. Hope they're enough because that's all I got. Just clean this race off and start over. You seem to spin free with no slack. Let's put some screws in it and see if that remains the case. Try to get it lined up. Ha! Before I did that, I was supposed to get that piece in. This. Is it even possible to do with the rotor there? Yeah, I really should have watched my teardown video again. Probably would have saved me some time. So I was looking, and I guess I did it off camera. I was able to push that wick in further. Okay, so I'm going to go find a long skinny screwdriver that can fit through that hole. Alright, I got it. I got it off camera. I got it with this. Huh. Shall I dare put this rotor in again? Alright, timing mark's lined up again. Please be the last time I'm putting this part on. I won't bore you with this. We'll start off where I was. Okay, I got a helper block so I can stand this up and it stays there. Makes the rest of this so much easier. Alright, so there's a little stop screw here, a little notch. Do not put it in that notch, it goes in this notch. And this is how you adjust the timing for start and run. And there's this piece here which mounts to it to adjust the timing. So what I'm going to do is mount this best I can by eyeballing it to where the center position is straight out. Close enough. Okay, so got that at about the right height. Double check it. Make sure it's all level before I tighten it. You know, that screw's a little boogered. It's not tightening like I want it to. But it's not moving, so I'm going to go with it. This thing is just desk art anyway at this point. Okay. I do want that to move smoothly, so let's put some grease on there. Just forgot this one here. The screw goes over here. On this other remaining hole, there's a piece that holds the cover to this points cap. So it's a little different. But this is just a long screw. Okay. Still spins free. Good deal there. What's weird is there's not much holding this in. It's going to be this piece essentially. But now it's time to install the points. The points themselves spin around. Tell you what, just to make the points easier for me, I'm going to remove that. Then I could use a wrench I have here instead of going to get a socket. Okay. Okay, so points are open, closed. Then they hit this lobe up here and open. They're opening really wide. That was kind of interesting, and I don't know if that's by design or not, but the spring, the little spring that's on the outside up there, it hits the top at the same time the points do down here. I wonder if that piece is supposed to be there. I don't know. I wonder if it's a broken spring that somebody doubled up on it. I'm going to remove it. Because it was only on one of them. It wasn't on both. Or maybe it's supposed to go under it. If any of you know how that is supposed to be, let me know. It's easy enough to add it because I could just slide this front piece off. You know, it would help if I looked up and did a little more research. But now I just want to see it spark. Well, it's weird. It has another one on this side too. Wonder if that's just to help to stop the spring from breaking off in one area. I'll do a little research and figure it out, but for now I want to see this thing spark, so we're going to go with this. Alright, let's get the points open. And try to adjust that gap. Alright, I bet I can't get a gauge down there. No, not without cutting it. Well, yeah, we can get the edge of it. Okay, that seems to be biting a little too much. It's a little loose. It's also angling a little, so I don't know how accurate it is. And if this was critical and I was really running an engine, I would sacrifice my feeler gauge and grind a part of it down. But I'm just going to use my micrometer. That looks right, so we're going with it. Okay. My micrometer says that's good. Okay. So the other piece to go down is this. Okay, so what this tab does is it holds down this cover. Now I don't have all of this cover in here. I need to make a bushing for this. There is a little spring, a piece of spring steel that touches a button onto this bolt, and it comes out to a pin, and you ground that pin to ground this points body to shut the magneto off. I don't have that, so I'm going with it like this for now. But essentially that's it. Almost got the front together, but I'm not going to put the cap on until I get the magnets and everything done. Next up we have this little tower that mounts here. Then there is a spark gap that bolts to this also. That spark gap actually holds this plastic piece in. So what that spark gap right there does, if you have an open circuit on your ignition side, it can damage the rotor. But instead of jumping inside and damaging the rotor, it'll arc here. As long as you don't have a lot of resistance going out to the spark plugs or any loose wires or anything, it'll be fine. If it does have an open circuit, it'll jump a gap there and it won't destroy everything. I'm kind of going to use that gap to test it. I'm not going to hook any plug wires on it, and theoretically it should jump that gap if it's working good. This is also spring loaded to press against the distributor cap, but I won't put that in just yet. So this is here. Now, something that was on the second one I took apart, but not the first one, this little cover. I think I'm going to go with that cover. Looks like it'll keep it cleaner. Okay. Alright, I do want to go ahead and put in the one that rubs there. This one here has the better one. Do a couple tests. Want to make sure we're getting connection from here to the rotor. So from here to ground I should have 5,000 ohms. Yes, so we're good. Awesome. Next up we'll take this and wipe off the grease, of course. So this is spring loaded. and it will press against the distributor cap in the center. So it'll hit the center of the cap and this little dot here. In this piece, this carbon brush will connect the center to these four sides, and it goes right here. And as long as it's good and springy, we're good to go. Now this cap was the original cap off of this, and when I took it apart, there was a lot of rust buildup, and the bolt actually cracked it and the end broke off. So I glued it on, filled it with JB Weld a little bit, sanded it, and then just painted the whole thing. And obviously, except the inside. Not the best, but I don't know if you could. I know you can't get these new. I haven't been able to find them new, and used ones are usually in bad shape too. So we'll go with it. You get a couple washers. Hold on. Got some plastic washers so I don't scar this thing up too bad. Put a little grease on the threads because I want it to remove easy instead of get seized up in there and rust. You know, I said I wasn't going to put this cap on until I got the magnets on. Oh well, gone this far, I'm rolling with it. Alright, it's almost a magneto now. So here's the deal with the magnets. You have to match the north on the north side, south on the south side. Doesn't matter which side of the magneto that is, but gotta match it. So if they stick together, that is not going to work. You have to actually rotate them to where they kind of repel a little bit. Now you have the north on the north and south on the south. Back one goes down. Front one's not liking it. Oh, I see why the front one's not liking it. I still got tape on it. That sucks. Can I get them up now? Alright. Yeah. So you got to make sure the surface where the magnet touches this piece is very clean. So when I painted it, I taped it. I didn't charge these. I haven't come across a magnet charger yet, but you can charge them once they're mounted. And a lot of people prefer that, but it does seem to be pretty strong. I don't think I'm gonna have an issue. I'm gonna get something out of it, I'm sure. Now I gotta figure out which way I was going again. Alright, track that way, repel this way. A little harder to rotate now. Magnets are holding it. There's a couple more pieces, but if I put the back on it, we won't see if that spark gap's firing. Got oil caps. I'll put those on afterwards. But alright, I'm going to throw this back piece on here for now, so I got something to turn. Well, now I wish I would have positioned the rotor for clockwise. Oh, wow. Oh, that was good. That thing shocked the heck out of me. It's not showing up, I'm sure, in the camera every time, but it's popping here. Pretty heavy every time. That is nice. I don't even have to spin it hard. I mean, it's show up in the camera. I'm watching it in the view. I see it and hear it, but it's between frames. Alright, here we go. I feel like it's tracking inside of here. Let's see, I hear popping inside the distributor cap. See anything weird that would be doing that? Alright, so while spinning it, I'm hearing something pop inside of here, I believe. It's arcing, but like every few, I hear it but don't see it. See if we can see anything obvious. I'm kind of doubting I can see anything obvious at this point, but like I was wondering if I'd see a track or something on there, but I do not. Okay, there's a arc in the side. Let's see if we can see that. See it in there. Looks like it's going through that plastic ring out, so I want to pull this back cover off. See if I could see anything obvious there. Okay, pop this bearing off. Get rid of that grease. Oh, dummy. Dummy, dummy, dummy. See that little hole right there? I drilled that hole. Yeah, I was trying to drill into this out here to be able to get that to make a connection. Turns out I didn't need to. But yeah, I drilled that hole. Should I ruin the rotor? No, I could probably seal it up with epoxy. So I'm going to do that and call it a night tonight, let it dry, and we'll come back and revisit this tomorrow. See you then. Okay, we're about 2 days later. Yesterday, I went ahead and fixed what I showed you earlier, that small hole that was in the rotor. Fill it with epoxy. It's good to go. It did work good. I remembered one thing that I forgot to do. Oh, also, I added these wires just so I can see it work, just for fun playing around. But one very important step I forgot is there's this brush that mounts behind in the back of the point assembly, which makes contact right here. So to keep this assembly grounded. Now it was still firing before, but mainly because it was the rotor was grounding through the other brush. But they're kind of redundant grounds, but it's pretty important we have a good ground there. So we're going to go with that. All right, good to go. We'll set that in place. So now that I fixed the internal arcing in the back, this thing works very well. Let's see if we can see it there, just turning by hand. Yeah, they're not all showing up in the frame due to the frame rate of the camera, but it's hitting all the way across. Get rid of the light here, see if we can see it better. I got rid of some of the light. Take a drill. Definitely hitting pretty good. Oop. See, it works very slow too. I mean, I'm hardly turning here. There's no impulse coupler. Popping all four. So let me get my cover back on the front. Take that off, make a little room. Still need to make the grounding post for that, get it set up, but that's for another day. All right, front's together. Let's put our back cover on. Hey, light helps. All right. Only thing left is these little oil caps. So we have a screw, a cap, and a spring. And I'm trying to remember how this goes. So I think spring goes down like that. And this goes through. You set it in place. Left it, put a few drops of oil in there. It's good to go. We got one more on the front. Just realized I forgot to clean up these springs. I'm going to go with it for now. This spring I've noticed, compared to that one, has a broken end on it. It works, but not the best. I'm going to go with it for now. I'll look at all my other magneto parts and see. I'm sure I got another one. I'll probably go ahead and remove this one later and clean it up. But that's our final product. If I decide to use this as a desk guard or something, I'll probably make a little stand for it and a hand crank. So I could play with it. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, here we go without the headset. See if we can hear the spark. Alright, well, I don't have a real use for that one yet, but it was for fun anyway, see how it works. I've never messed with one of these type magnetos before. I was looking for anything with detail on YouTube, and there was maybe one video I found of somebody building one, but not much detail involved in it. So it was kind of neat to try it out, figure out how it worked. Apparently these things are pretty high dollar for the style American Bosch. I lucked out and found the two pretty cheap. I'm forgetting the price I spent now. I know I mentioned it in the teardown video, but I think they were under $50 each, something like that. But these things are going anywhere from a few hundred to $1,000 or so, although I think some of the $1,000 ones are ridiculous and won't sell unless they're in very good shape. But anyway, that's it for this one. See you next time.